Assalamu alaikum, and today we are discussing the friar in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. So friar is one of those people who are going to perform their pilgrimage towards Canterbury. So friar is from Latin frater, that means brother, and the term applied to members of certain religious orders who practice the principles of monastic life and devote themselves to the service of humanity in the secular world. Originally, the regulations forbade the holding either of community or personal property, and the resulting dependence of friar on voluntary contribution in order to live caused them to be known as mendicant orders. The founders of these orders used the term friar to designate members. The larger orders were given popular names derived usually from the color of the other distinguishing marks of their habit, such as black friars known as Dominicans, grey friars known as Franciscans, and white friars known as Carmelites. So these were the orders of friars. Friars differed from monks in that their monk was attached to a specific community within which he led a cloistered life, having no direct contact with the secular world. But these friars were supposed to go out, they could go out, and they were licentiate. They could beg within certain limits from the people, and they had the power of confession, like they could go out and listen to the confessions of the people. So they were having these two powers for which they were social enough and they moved about the people. So unlike the monks, they were not sitting in the cloister, they were free to live an outer life. So let's see what kind of person this was. So the friar, the particular friar who was going on the pilgrimage, so friar was there, lustful and cheery, having license to beg within limits, and had a very dignified and was a very dignified person. In all the four orders of friar, there was none who could use such a beautiful language that he used. He had arranged many marriages of young ladies at his own personal capacity. He was on a noble seat of his order. He was well beloved and well familiar among franklins of countryside and also among worthy women of the town. It was so because he had the power to hear confessions more than a clergy. He himself said so because he was a licentiate of his order, like he was from mendicant order, and he could listen to the confessions of the people. The clergies were also given this power, but they were listening to the confession of the people within church, but these people could go out since they were mendicant friars. So from all the four orders of the friars, from Franciscans, Dominicans, Carmelites, Augustinians, this friar was the only friar using such kind of a language. So now we are told about him. So the opening lines informs us that the friar was a lecherous and lustful person. He had two advantages, like he could beg within limits, he was permitted by the church, he had license for it, and listening to the confessions of the people. So his arranging marriages of ladies on his own expense is also ironical. He actually arranged the marriages of those whom he had already seduced. So it was his former love affairs from whom he could or he wanted to get rid, so that he wanted to get them married on his personal capacity to get rid of them. He used these to his own profits. He was well familiar with all the franklins. So franklin in those days were a big landlords of the medieval times. They had well reserves for themselves, and they were quite rich people. So this person was familiar with all the franklins of the town, and also all the beautiful ladies of the town, because he had the power of confessions. So those people were sinners. They were living a life of pleasure, and this friar was good enough for them that he could absolve them of their sins. The franklin offered him sumptuous food in return and money, and the ladies fulfilled his physical demands. So that is why he was all over famous. He knew his position and exercised his power in the best possible way. So he was taking or making misuse of his both powers asking for alms and beg within limits, and also to make people absolve of their sins. So he was taking great advantage from these two things. Now, full sweetly he heard the confession. So he heard the confession in very sweet way, and his absolution was pleasant. So rather this should be the fact that he must be serious with this thing, but he was not. He was easily bribed, and when he was to give punishment to the sinner, he expected additional profits such as food. He said that giving money to a poor friar is a sign that a man is well forgiven. And for this, if a person gives the friar such a money, the friar boasts by saying that he knew that a person was a genuine repentant, because there are so many people there were so many people are quite hard of their heart, they will not weep even though they are deeply sorrowful, or they're deeply beaten, but they will not feel sorry about it. So therefore, instead of weeping and praying, such men should give silver to the poor friars. And this was his logic that he was using, basically, that first of all, he was using a very pleasant manner of absolving people of their sins, and then he was easily bribed. Whatever sin was committed by the people, they could pay him a handsome amount of money, and he could in return say that I have got this knowledge that you are a genuine repentant. And he was having this plea with him that if a person cannot repent, then he should pay silver to the poor friar. So this is a kind of sign that a person is repentant and he is absolved of his sins. So he says that man should give silver to the poor friars. So this means they will be forgiven completely. And then his garment was always stuffed with knife. So these knives were for franklins, and pins to be given to the beautiful married ladies, since he had relations with them. And no doubt he has a melodious note. His voice was quite melodious. He could sing and play on a fiddle very well, that is a musical instrument. In singing competition, he always won the first prize easily. His neck was white like a lily flower, which is a symbol of sexual urge in literature. And he was as strong as a champion. He knew all the taverns and the keepers of inn and barmaids of the town better than lepers and the beggar women. So he was well known among the rich people, among the food sellers, among the wine sellers, among the ladies, among the landlords, but he was least known among the poor people, beggars, diseased people, since they give him no advantage. So we see his character and we come to know that he played on musical instruments, he sang songs in the marriages, his white neck shows his strong urge for physical desires. So this thing is altogether unlikely for a friar. So he was totally altogether different from his profession. So for unto such a worthy man, now this was again his logic, that for such a person as he was, it was not suitable for his position to deal with the sick people. So he should not be dealing with them, like what kind of friar he was. He should not be involved in a relation with the poor people. It was not honest for such a person, and dealing with poor may not give him any advantage. His all dealing was with all sick and sellers of food stuff, like sick in a way that all those people who were mentally sick. So he was not with those who were physically sick, but mentally sick people were his close friends. He was very close to the food merchants. But above all, whenever the gain was supposed to rise, and whenever he said that he should get a profit from somewhere, he was so courteous, and he was so humble in front of the people, because he was expecting some prophet to come, and his courtesy and his humbleness showed that there was no other person like him that was existing there. Now here Chaucer uses irony in saying that his position did not allow him to deal with poor people. This friar was happy in the company of rich, therefore he did not pay attention to the poor. He behaved humbly if he expected rise in profit, and he was so expert of this thing that he knew when to show his humbleness and when not to show. Now we are told that he was the best beggar of his place and his convent, because even though that if there was a widow who did not have enough money to buy even a single shoe for her, he could extort money from such a poor person as well. Like, he was so pleasant in his in principio that he would have some coins before he left the door of such a lady. So in principio are the opening words of St. John's Gospel. These words were used as charms against evils. Friar used these words to persuade people to give them money. So he kept using such words, and in result of it he could get money from the poorest person, and wherever he went he got the money. His purchase was better than his rent. So here Chaucer says that his earning through his wickedness was higher than his salary. So whatever he earned through the people, that was more than he was paid by the church. He behaved and raged like a puppy if he expected a profit from the people. And in love days, he was helping the people. Like in love days, when the conflicts was resolved without the intervention of the court. So these are not the romantic days. These are the days when the court was officially off, and people would have an arbitrator, and that arbitrator would decide the decisions. So he could help the people being an arbitrator, because he was not like a poor clergyman wearing a worn out coat like a poor religious scholar. So he says that Chaucer says that he was more involved in materialistic activities, because he was not like a monk, even though monks were even corrupt. But the way a monk should be sitting inside and doing manual work, the friar was not into this. He could go out and he could go whatever he wanted. Now, with a threadbare cope as a poor scholar, now he is again connecting this with that monk thing that he was talking already. And then he tells about his dresses. Now he says that this friar was wearing an outer cloak which was quite expensive. His half cloak was of double worsted and stood out round like a bell when out of his clothes. Out of his wantonness he lisped a little in order to make English sweet upon his tongue, and when he was singing his eyes shone in his head, and he played on a harp like stars in the frosty night. And this worthy, now worthy here is ironical, and he says that his name was Herbert. So this friar was so much skilled in his illegal earning that his illegal earning exceeded his legal one. His presence in love days to help out the people for money is the example that he was not interested in his real duties. A friar was supposed to be a simple person, but he seemed like a pope. He sang songs and lisped to impress the people and earn more money. So Chaucer uses satire and irony to expose this, as well as most of the friars from the medieval church. So this friar is not also the individual friar, rather he is representing the whole community of friars in 14th century. So ये फ्रायर जिसके बारे में हम पढ़ रहे हैं, इसका नाम हर्बर्ट था. एक शौक और चंचल इंसान था, और एक लिमिट के अंदर ये भीख मांगने की इजाज़त रखता था, लेकिन ये उस लिमिट को क्रॉस करता था. इसके बाद लैंग्वेज स्किल थे, और इन लैंग्वेज स्किल्स का इस्तेमाल करके ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पैसे बनाता था. बहुत सारी ख्वातीन की शादी इसने अपने पैसों से कराई क्योंकि इसके उनसे ताल्लुकात रह चुके थे और ये उनसे जान छुड़ाना चाहता था। बहुत ज़्यादा रिच लेडीज़ एंड जेंटलमैन जो थे उस ज़माने के, उनके साथ इसके रिलेशंस थे क्योंकि वो सिनर्स थे और वो अपने सिंस को बख्शवाने के लिए इससे रब्ता करते थे और इसके पास ताकत थी कि उनके गुनाहों को बख्शवा सकता, और ये लाइसेंस इसको चर्च ने दिया। और इसका सिन से आज़ाद कराने का तरीका बहुत ज़्यादा सिंपल और बड़ा खुशगवार होता था। ये आम क्लर्जी की तरह डांटता नहीं था, रिपेंट नहीं करवाता था, गुस्सा नहीं करता था, रुलाता नहीं था, माफिया नहीं मंगवाता था, बल्कि ये उनसे पैसे लेता और पैसे जितने पैसे ज़्यादा होते इसका मतलब होता कि जो बंदा है उसकी फॉरगिवनेस अच्छी हो गई। थोड़ा सा हकलाता था ताकि अंग्रेज़ी इसके मुंह से अच्छी लगे। इसकी आंखें जो थीं वो चमकती थीं जब ये कंपनी में गाने गा रहा होता। बहुत ज़्यादा पैसे कमाता था। लेडीज़ और जेंटलमैन को हल्के हल्के से गिफ्ट्स देके उनसे ज़्यादा चीज़ें रिसीव करता। स्ट्रॉन्ग था, इसकी आवाज़ बड़ी खूबसूरत थी और ये अक्सर शादियों पे गाने गा के मुकाबलों को जीतता था। और शराब खानों में और इन्स में और जो इन कीपर्स होते थे और जो फूड सेलर्स होते थे उनके साथ इसके अच्छे ताल्लुकात थे। गरीबों को ये जानता नहीं था, उनके साथ कोई ताल्लुक़ नहीं रखता था। और जो जब इसे पता लगता कि प्रॉफिट मिलने वाला है तो ये फ़ौरन लोगों के नीचे बेच जाता। और अपने इलाके का ये बेस्ट बेगर था, ये जहाँ भी जाता गरीब से गरीब बंदे से भी ये पैसे निकलवा लाता था, ये इतना लालची था। सो इन प्रिंसिपियो यूज़ करता था। ये ओपनिंग लाइंस हैं बाइबल की जिसमें एक प्रोटेक्शन अगेंस्ट सिंस या ईवल के तौर पे इनको यूज़ किया जाता है। तो ये वो बोल के लोगों से पैसे निकलवाता था। लव डेज में जब लोग आपस में कोर्ट बंद होती थी और ये कोर्ट से यानी लोग आपस में आर्बिट्रेशन के ज़रिए, मुसालहत के ज़रिए मामलात को तय करते थे, तो ये उनके साथ हेल्प करता था एज एन आर्बिट्रेटर। और इसकी जो कमाई होती थी ऐसे कामों से वो उसकी तनख्वाह से ज़्यादा थी। इसकी ड्रेसिंग देख के लगता नहीं था ये कोई आम सा फ्रायर है, बल्कि ये भी कोई एक चर्च का हाई ऑफिशियल लगता था। So this was all about Friar. So next is a merchant. We'll be studying in the next video.